Well, hey, folks, welcome to the Intrepid radio program and the pre-show. That's all we do here in the first 3 minutes before we go live on the radio station is the pre-show. Let's make sure we are set up everywhere we need to be. Yes, we're good there. Audio codec, USB, 3 outputs. Boom, boom, boom. And we're ready to fly. How are you all doing tonight? Welcome to the program. Welcome to the early part of the program. This is kind of the warm-up band for the rest of the show. And we'll do a Captain's Cabin tonight, the after show. And depending on how many people we have show into that and call in, we'll determine the length of that for tonight. So here we are. And we're just about ready to roll. We got a little less than 2 minutes to go before we roll. We're going to talk about animal spirits tonight. An interesting topic as far as I'm concerned. Something I have not traditionally known a lot about, but something which I am going to do my best to share what information I do know and that I have gleaned on the topic. So... 9:01 and 45 seconds. So we've got a minute and 15 seconds, and we'll go live over on Odyssey Radio. That's the audio-only version of the show over on the radio station. Sometimes radio was a lot better and easier when it was just audio. You didn't have to get dressed or comb your hair or brush your teeth or have a set around you to be able to broadcast from. And so, and it was easy that way. Audio. You could pre-record and nobody would know it. So, unless you showed up in the chat room like I always did when I pre-recorded and chatted with everybody. Hey, how can you type and talk so well? I just say I'm multitasking and I'm multi-talented. So 30 seconds, we go live. I hope you all had a good week and that you've got a good weekend planned. Hopefully you don't have to work through the whole weekend. I think I've cleaned out most of my projects this week that were vital before we start new stuff next week. So that's good. We'll see some of them are in holding patterns. Okay, we got 5 seconds. We're going live. Stand by.
Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent talk.
Hey folks, happy Friday evening. Welcome to the program. I am your host, Scotty Roberts, of this here, my show, the Intrepid radio program, right here on Odyssey Radio. That's ODYSY radio.com. You can go over there and hear this show in its audio format, or you can come on over to my Patreon page and watch this show in its video simulcast on Patreon. And if you would like to come into Patreon, become a patron of my page, go on over and click the right buttons, and it starts at $4 a month. You can help support this show, and I'd appreciate it. And all those of you who already have, thank you. And so I hope you had a good week. It's Friday. Friday's always a good day. I love Fridays. Although the older I get, I have noticed my Fridays are coming faster and faster on top of each other. It's like, and Mondays do the same things, and so do Thursdays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, not to mention Saturdays and Sundays. But measuring weeks out, it seems like, wasn't it just Friday? We just did a show on Friday. And we did a live show that we broadcast more publicly than just the Patreon page. Patreon is just for my patrons, and people can listen to the show for no charge over at the radio station. And if you come and become a patron of my page, you can watch the simulcast and join the chatting over there. So all of you who have been listeners of mine, the thousands of you, if you want to come over and join that channel, that'd be fantastic. and we'll see what we can build together. I am still working, by the way, a little bit of business on a good chat room app to flow into the radio show. The ones I'm finding that are the best cost about $50 a month just to have them there and have something that flows and works, and you got to set it all up and all of that and launch it and all of that, all of those things. So I'm still looking into it. I haven't put a lot of high energy into doing that quite yet. We're going to build this channel up a little bit more before we do that. So thank you to all of those of you who are here and are helping us to do cool, I think, and better things with this radio program. And I've got to, if you're like me, we have mundane things of life that go on. Rainey has not been, I can't say she's ill, but she has not felt good for months now. And she has a few stellar days, and her days are mostly normal days, but she's constantly fighting headaches and a couple of things that are going wonky with her body, and it's driving her a little batty. So keep her in your thoughts and minds. Tonight, she's got all day. She's been sitting kind of trying to fight a migraine while running errands and doing stuff and doing her things. So I hope that you will keep her in your thoughts and your hearts. And so tonight's show, usually we do Fridays are ghost days, and I like to dig into the paranormal or metaphysics or the spirit world and things like that, and take a look at the stuff that's going on out there, the stuff that is interesting to us. And you think after doing this for so many years, you'd run out of material, and you really don't. Sometimes the material doesn't change in its core, but the stories change, the events change, the research changes, the learning changes, the experiences change. Now, I've talked about spirit animals before, let me put it this way, not per se about spirit animals, although we've mentioned them, but I have spoken about in the past, do animals have spirits? Do they have ghosts? I know more and more in this day and age, people look at their pets and their animals as family members. And there was always a part of me that was that way when I was a kid. Then as I grew up, I started thinking less that way. And I struggle with that a little bit back and forth because I understand that my dog is part of our family, but she's also a dog. And she's not equal to my children by any means. Now, I know that there are people that don't have children and their pets mean that much to them. I understand that and I get it. And I do not cast any aspersions toward anybody who does that or holds their pets in that loving regard. And pets love you without reservation, and usually without any kinds of trappings of conditions on their love for you. Of course, they like to be fed. They don't like to be kicked or abused in any certain way. I understand that. But our animals, if we love them, they love us right back. And they give unconditionally. Lucy Fur, our little pug, mini English bulldog mix, I asked, does she have a spirit? Does she have a soul? She certainly has a personality. And she certainly has something going on there. She knows where she's loved, and she loves right back. She also has a little bit of a temper. She doesn't bite anybody. She does not like that. She's not vicious. But if the kids come and start poking her on the backside or something while she's snuggling with mom, she'll growl, brr, brr. So she's got that personality. So we all have pets. We all have our pet stories. We all have our certain levels of belief in what our animals mean to us. But I wanted to talk about our spirit animals, which is something very different. It's not our pet necessarily. It's not the dog that's part of our family or the cat or the goldfish or things like that. I want to look at what a spirit animal is. But before I do that, I had this little fun thing that came across my bow that I wanted to share with you. And it was it's a little not really an article, but it's a little thing that was put up from the Dodo website called 9 Touching Epitaphs Ancient Greeks and Romans wrote for their deceased dogs. Now, this is in ancient times. We're talking some of this is 2,000 years ago. And we think we're unique in the way we think, but people were people back then too, and they loved their pets the way we love them now. So here's some of the epitaphs. And today, there's a majority of Americans that consider their pets not merely animal companions, but as bona fide members of the family. So it's no wonder that the death of a dog, a cat, or other cherished creatures can give rise to grief and sorrow, as strong as those felt at the loss of a loved one who's human. That happens, folks. But to have such tender feelings toward pets isn't some modern phenomenon indicative of a soft and overly sensitive society. In fact, people have been mourning over their deceased animals for much of recorded history. And that's been verified in a lot of recorded history. That's how we know that. And in no place is that more evident than in these fascinating and totally heart-wrenching epitaphs written for dogs of ancient Greece and ancient Rome. I've got 9 of these in front of me. I want to share these with you before we get into spirit animals. Now, some of you out there, you may find some affinity with this. You may see this and go, oh man, I get that. I know exactly what they're talking about. I lost a cat. I lost a dog. I lost a ferret. Yeah, ferrets even. That we become very, very close with our animals. Hey, Randall Flagg over in the chat room. Good to see you, brother. And so I want to look at this and show you what some of the ancients, normal, regular folk, just like us that lived thousands of years ago, what they said. The first one reads like this. This is an epithet or an epitaph that ancient Roman. It says this. This is a couple of thousand years old. I am in tears while carrying you to your last resting place, as much as I rejoiced when bringing you home in my own hands 15 years ago. That was written about this person's pets. Ancients weren't ashamed to openly weep for the departed dogs, as seen in this one. This is the saddened pet owner's final farewell to his companion. It says this: "Thou who passest on this path, if haply thou dost mark this moment, laugh not, I pray thee, though it is a dog's grave. Tears fell for me, and the dust was heaped above me by a master's hand." I'm going to read that again. Thou who passest on this path, this is written on the grave marker for the dog. Thou who passest on this path, if haply thou dost mark this monument, laugh not, I pray thee, though it is a dog's grave. Tears fell for me, and the dust was heaped above me by a master's hand. Isn't that sweet? In an age before pet cemeteries, Greek and Romans would bury their pets along the roadside in marked graves. And they put up things like this next one I'm going to read you, a mournful gesture. They didn't take it lightly. This person says, "My eyes were wet with tears, our little dog, when I bore thee to the grave. So, Patricus, never again shalt thou give me 1,000 kisses. Never canst thou be contentedly in my lap. In sadness have I buried thee, and thou deservest. In a resting place of marble I have put thee for all time by the side of my shade, my ghost," he says. "In thy qualities, sagacious thou wert like a human being. Ah me, what a loved companion have we lost." Isn't that something? This text was found on the tombstone of Patricus, an Italian dog, written by his grieving owner. And that even in this era, pets were being likened to humans. 2,000 years ago. Here's another one. There's actually a marble, or I'm sorry, a marble stone mosaic that went with this. And it shows the dog running at the heels of two men. And it says, to Helena, foster child, soul without comparison, and deserving of praise. So they buried their pet dog, Helena. And domestic canines, particularly lap dogs, were often referred to as fosters, further suggesting that even by then, adopted pets were considered members of the family. Here's another one. This is number 5 of 9 of these that I have. This is the tomb of the dog, Stephanos, who perished, whom Rhodope shed tears for and buried like a human. I am the dog Stephanos, and Rhodope set up a tomb for me. That was his marker. Here, a dog named Stephanos is mourned by his master Rhodope, who wanted to make sure that all who read this epitaph know how much the animal meant to her. Number 6, Maya never barked without reason, but now he is silent. So this dog's owner offers simple yet powerful words for the pet, addressing him as one might an equal. Do you think they found affinity with their pets? You thinking about spirit animals here? About the souls and spirits of the animals that we call our pets? What about your pet? Here's number 7. Here the stone says it holds the white dog from Melita, the most faithful guardian of Eumelus. But they call him while he was yet alive, but now his voice is prisoned in the silent pathways of night. So for Emulus, his deceased pet, Melita, was clearly more than just an animal, but rather a creature with a soul that slipped beyond to a realm which can only be described in poetic terms. Number 8, I've got 2 more of these. Number 8, Isa's more pert than Lesbia's sparrow love, purer than kisses of a turtle dove, more sweet than 100 maidens rolled in one, rarer than wealthy India's precious stone. She is the pet of Publius, Isa dear. She whines, a human voice you seem to hear. So in that longer epigraph, Publius's dog, Isa, is described in near mythological terms. She's celebrated in a painting or a statue that has since been lost. That was part of the original grave. Now, number 9, the last one here. Listen to this one. Surely, even as thou liest dead in this tomb, I deem the wild beasts yet fear thy white bones, huntress Lycus, and thy valor great Pelion knows, and splendor Ossa, and the lonely peaks of Kithaeron. Epithets for the hunting dogs, like Lycus, often depict the animals not unlike one who would a fellow soldier on the battlefield, underscoring their importance in their owner's survival. So there, I thought you would enjoy those. Those are 9 epitaphs that were engraved on ancient Roman and Grecian tombs for dogs. So it's not such an odd thing, the way we treat our pets nowadays, is it? It has been done for time immemorable and history memorable. So let's move on into animal spirits now. This is a thing where, first of all, as we talked on the show once a couple of years ago, we talked about, do animals have souls and spirits? In a Christian or a biblical sense, do they go to heaven? Does God cherish animals? I do know that in some biblical passages, it talks about how a sparrow does not fall, but it grieves God in his heart. and that he knows when the sparrows fall, even the sparrow. So why should he not care all that much more for you? Was the point of the passage. And so in establishing that, I think, again, it's subjective. There's no way to prove it. But I believe animals have souls and they have spirits. But at the same time, if they have a soul and they have a spirit, then what is it exactly that a spirit animal is? In certain spiritual traditions or cultures, spirit animals refer to a spirit which helps guide or protect a person on a journey and whose characteristics that person shares or embodies. And it's always a metaphor. It's always a metaphor. It's often humorous. And for someone or something a person relates to or admires. But where do spirit animals come from? The ancient concept of animal guides for us, particularly prominent in a lot of native indigenous people, tribes, especially Native American religions, their cultures, was adopted in pagan and Wiccan spirituality, and not in more recently, really, but in the 1990s. That's paganism, modern paganism, and modern Wiccanism as we know it now. But it's always been there historically. In these contexts, spirit animals are meant literally referring to spirit guides or totems that take the form of animals for us. Quizzes began to emerge in the mid-2000s to help you find your spirit animal. And spirit animals have increasingly been used to indicate, ironically, a strong appreciation or identification for someone or something. Here's a good example. In 2006, a user in a forum featuring a serious discussion about spirit animals replied irreverently with, "My spirit animal is Samuel Jackson." In 2007, a commenter on a blog about the television show Mad Men posted, "Peggy Olson is my spirit animal." And by 2010, the phrase was used everywhere, from Tumblr to the New York Times. But who actually uses spirit animals? What is this all about? A spirit animal, in the ironic or the joking sense, can be virtually anything. It can be cute and funny animals. This baby panda is my spirit animal because it's roly-poly, like me, likes to eat and rolls around and has fun. It's celebrities, fictional characters. Someone once said Beyonce was their spirit animal. Good luck with that one. Any and every little thing that someone is really into or feels at a particular moment can become their spirit animal. And of course, that's in a tongue-in-cheek, lighthearted sense. I don't think Beyonce is anybody's spirit animal. And I think you can make light of it, but that means, to me, when you see people saying, I don't know, who can you think of? Captain Kirk is my spirit animal. That's making light. That's making fun. It's not really mocking it, but it's really, I think, lending a sense to what you're saying as being one of disbelief in spirit animals. So in response to the ubiquity, the ubiquity and the appropriative nature of this use of spirit animal, satirist Mallory Otberg, she penned a humorous essay on her website, The Toast, and she wrote this: "One of these days, and that day is closer than you might think, everyone and everything that you've ever called my spirit animal is going to show up at your doorstep and make you go on a vision quest. And it's going to be awful." Think about that for a minute. And so there are still plenty of all kinds of internet quizzes and tests that help you discover your spirit animal. And in some cases, this refers to the concept of finding an actual spirit guide. In others, it's more about what animal best suits your personality. Spirit animals also show up in fantasy fiction, too, such as the Spirit Animals series by Brendan Mull. I had a character when I didn't do a lot of Dungeons and Dragons when I was a kid. I did some of it in my 20s and in my 30s with friends and family. And I had a character that was named Sanbalin the Druid. And he had a familiar spirit or a spirit animal, Ned, the koala bear, and created a whole cast of a whole cadre of stories about Sandbalin and Ned. And so that was lighthearted. It was fictional. But the use of spirit animal is sometimes considered culturally appropriative of and insensitive to indigenous peoples, as it can be interpreted as mockery or ignorance of their beliefs, their traditions, their history, and so on. I, for one, think you don't get offended unless you want to be offended by something. I think most Native Americans, indigenous people, are going to go, whatever, I don't care. This is my belief. You can have your belief. This is particularly the case when used casually, like whiskey is my spirit animal. But even serious uses of spirit animal, as employed in many popular online quizzes, can be deemed offensive, even racist to some people. I think picky people or people who have a stick up their ass or people who don't have anything else to worry about. I think people who genuinely believe in spirit animals, somebody wants to mock them, so what? When I was in Christianity, we had people mock what we believed. So what? You move on. So actor Kerry Washington of the TV drama Scandal was notably chided for calling Kate Winslet her spirit animal in 2015, though she received praises for acknowledging that the phrase can be disrespectful. Instead of spirit animal, some people use Patronus, as you found in Harry Potter. He summoned a powerful spell in the Harry Potter series, was the Patronus. And that's where Harry found his spirit animal. So that's kind of what spirit animals are. Maybe the way we use them or misuse them in our current culture and our belief system. Those who mock it, I think, are the same people who would mock anything that's religious or spiritual. Make fun of it, not necessarily mockery, but making fun of it, because in essence, at the very core, they don't really believe it. But I've got a few things here. I've got 10 things you can know about spirit animals on a more psychological level. And I think, not right now, baby. I'll have to talk to you after the show about that. And so she wants to go shopping on Amazon. So I'll give you my opinion when I'm not doing radio. How about that? Okay. All right. And so there you go, folks. Familial interruptions. Not quite sure what they don't get about, hey, Dad's on radio. Don't come to me with ask an opinion about a dress. There's 10 things to know about spirit animals. I've got how to find your spirit animals. I've actually got 102 spirit animals in a list and their meanings. We won't get through even the tip of the iceberg of those. But I want to look at 10 things to know about spirit animals. And spirit animals reveal a lot about your human nature, believe it or not. Spirit animals are totems. They represent archetypes and are thus important in a historical sense. Spirit animals are universally viewed as protectors of us on a spirit level, like a spirit guide. We see reflections of spirit animals in the mascots of certain sports teams, coats of arms, and children's stories. Now, there's some anthropologists out there suggest that the Paleolithic cave paintings that are famously discovered in southwestern France may have been meant for animal deities. They could represent prayers by early peoples to help with the hunt, or have been a form of thanks to these animal deities. You remember, I know in indigenous peoples, a Native American tradition, and this is not strictly theirs. It's in many different cultures. But one was to, if you were hunting an animal for meat for your family or your tribe, you would kill that animal, of course, to eat it. But before they would strip it down, they would come to the animal they've just killed, and they would thank the animal's spirit for giving them meat for the winter, something like that. And so they would find affinity there with the animal deities. Now, nonetheless, the prospect that early peoples were messaging animal deities dovetails with what we now refer to as spirit animals or totems. And to many, the concept of a spirit animal is merely an anthropological curiosity. But in recent years, the allure of a totem or an animal, a bird, a reptile, a fish, or an insect that a person feels affinity to has caught on in various circles. I know there was a woman who was, I don't know if she considered herself a priestess, but she was pagan, about my age, and she was out at the Renaissance Festival, and she identified my spirit animal for me through a little series of cards she did and readings and things like that. And so this is something that's very current nowadays. So what exactly is a spirit animal or a totem? And although there's no evidence for the presence of such animal spirit guides, there's no evidence, there's no pejorative evidence. There is speculation, spiritual speculation. There is, it's highly subjective because there's no way. She's talking to me like we're my daughter's talking to me like we're in a conversation while I'm doing radio. There you go. So I don't mind familial interruptions, but she's over there humming and singing and looking up clothes on Amazon and wants me to participate. It's like, I'm doing radio. So it happens when I leave the studio door unlocked. So there's no evidence for it is what it comes down to. There's no evidence for a lot of things we believe spiritually. We attribute evidence to things in our faith life. We'll see things that'll, that's God, we'll say, or that's Jesus, or that's whoever it might be. And we attribute those things to them, but we don't really know that. We know it in our hearts because we believe it by faith. It's a faith issue. So when it comes down to it, there's no real evidence, that's solid evidence for the presence of spirit animals and guides. There is literature on the subject which points back to archetypes as old as man. But consequently, it might be worth taking a closer look at spirit animals for their historical and their anthropological value. Let's look at this from a psychological level, an anthropological level. Based on extant literature, here are 10 observations concerning spirit animals. You ready for these? Get out your pencils. There'll be a quiz at the end. Number 1, scholars who study spirit animals agree that these spiritual entities are believed to offer help to man, whether a person realizes it or not. So it's like guardian angels. Whether you realize they're there, says certain faith circles. They'll say you have spirit guides, you have angels, you have whatever it might be, spirit animals. So the scholars who study this whole idea of spirit animals agree that these entities are believed to offer help to mankind and to individuals, whether a person realizes that or not. Number 2, spirit animals may not overlap with a person's zodiac sign. Let's say you're Taurus the bull. Maybe you have an ant for a spirit guide, a spirit animal. So they don't have to overlap with your zodiac sign, your astrological sign. Number 3, some metaphysical researchers suggest that a person has one main spirit animal, while other spirit animals and animal helpers might assist as needed. And alternatively, a person may have several spirit animals. I know some of you give stories of either pets you've had that have died over the years, and you feel their presence. You feel them curl up in your bed next to you, or you see them in a gleam of moonlight coming through the window at night. It doesn't even have to be your pet. I'm getting chills in my arms talking about that. So it might be that you could have several spirit animals. It might be the spirits of past animals. It might be, think of all the millions of humans that have died over human history Think of all the millions of animals that have died over that same period of time. So, number 4, indigenous people of Siberia believe that each member of the community had a reindeer spirit animal. A reindeer. People smell better than reindeers. Sven, don't you know I'm right? If you ever saw Frozen, I saw that a million times as my kids were growing up. Hey, Ellery, if you're going to be down here, I can't have you singing out loud. It picks up on the radio. All right?
I'm going in your room.
Okay, see ya. Just going to mom and dad's bedroom instead. Close the door, please. Oh, oi. She can't hear me. She got her headset on, so I can still hear her. Well, that'll be our background music, our incidental music for tonight. So, reindeers. Indigenous people of Siberia believed that every person in their tribe had a reindeer for a spirit animal. Number 5, Celtic peoples believed that animal deities guarded entire groups of people. These animal spirits included griffins, wolves, and deer, and they could aid warriors in battle. For instance, some warriors wore horns and animal skins during battle to garner help from animal deities. It wasn't just to scare the other side. The other side knows there is a naked dude running at me with a sword and a deer head and antlers on. Yeah, that'll scare you. That'll put a little nervousness into you. But they also did it because they believed those animal deities would help them and protect them. So, number 6, the animals found in a coat of arms might harken back to the spirit animals. Dogs could mean loyalty, lions could symbolize courage, and bears could represent protection. And some authors note that animal mascots of professional sports teams, such as the Detroit Lions, the Chicago Bears, the San Jose Sharks, could also all allude to spirit animals and spirit animal beliefs of yore. Number 7, akin to the concept of spirit animals. Hey, hang on a second, folks. It's distracting enough to me. I'm going to go close my door because everybody's talking out here while I'm doing live radio. All right. There we go. My door is now closed. And as soon as I closed it, all the kids ran upstairs. So, mom and dad's room is off limits during the radio show. So here we are. It's just us now in the quiet studio. Number 7, akin to the concept of spirit animals, in the book of Social Zoio, how would you say this? Zoo and archaeology together. We have zoology. This is zooarchaeology. Author Nerissa Russell points to tales where children are raised by animals or animals take husband and wife roles. As with beliefs concerning totems, these stories show similar patterns of animal-human kinship. We've all heard the stories, of the boy raised by wolves, or the girl raised by a bear. Some of these, we've seen some of these they take on a bit of a storybook fascination about them, but there are some people who have had these these animals, that they have lived with groups of animals because they'd been lost in the jungle or the forest. And the animals don't eat them, but they take care of them. That's interesting. Hey, Barbie D. She says, I'm here. No test. Oh, a quiz at the end. Yeah. So we have all kinds of traditions like that that come up. And also, as with beliefs concerning totems, these stories of animals as parents, animals as spouses, animals raising lost children in the woods, these stories show similar patterns of animal-human kinship. One of the most famous that we don't think about very often anymore, Tarzan of the Apes. a baby whose parents were killed in the jungle after a boat wreck, shipwrecked on an island or on the coast, and he's raised by apes. Edgar Rice Burroughs wrote those stories. But he grew up as a child of the apes and became the ape man. And then, of course, what many people don't know, because the movies don't always show this, especially the old, if you're like me and you grew up in the 60s and the 70s, we watched the old Johnny Weissmuller Tarzan movies from the late 30s and the 40s. And a Tarzan in those movies was always, Lord of the Jungle. But in the books, Tarzan actually, there's the Frenchman that finds him, and the Frenchman teaches him French, and he's an English lord. He's Lord Greystoke. I think Christopher Lambert, who played in the movie Highlander in the early 80s, he plays Lord Greystoke in a movie in the same era. I think it was the mid 80s. And where I don't think it was a very good movie. It had some good parts in it. And it was done really well. But they show the actual story that Tarzan, he was taken back to civilization. He learned French. He took his place as the Lord of Greystoke Manor. And his further adventures, he was the Lord of Greystoke Manor, but also with this upbringing he has, with these special talents and so on. So that's an interesting fictional story that ties right into that. Number 8, in a case study authored by Rita Jaime, there's umlauts all over the place in this name, Hiiema umlaut E. Jaime was a spirit animal experiences, disseminated by modern Estonian narrators are explored in her book. And according to the author, she says this, belief in and narratives about spirit animals are an example of contemporary vernacular lived religion. The social or belief background of the experiencers and the narrators can be quite different, however. More elaborated stories usually come from people with a history of at least some forms of spiritual seeking or practicing. And several authors have stressed that the majority of vernacular belief forms attract particularly women. The majority of vernacular belief forms attract particularly women. Could you turn that TV down, please? It was somewhere along the way you have not gained the idea and understood that I'm doing a live radio show here. So don't talk. Go in the other room. Turn down the TV. Thank you very much. Sorry, folks. Dad and daughter time. I took her on a date today. We went for Chinese. That's usually Uncle Dave's job, to take my girls to Chinese. Not that I don't take them out, but that was their thing. They designated Dave the official Chinese buffet taking uncle. And so now today, Dad, will you take me to Chinese? Sure, let's go to Chinese. So we went. And so we have our time together. I don't know. There's a disconnect with my children. Maybe they need to consult their animal guides or something, because my children some days just don't get it. The littlest one especially. She's 8, going on 9 this year. You'd think she'd have it by now. But let's just walk in and out and distract and turn the TV up so loud I can hear it through the wall. So there you go, folks. Scintillating live radio is what we like to call this. So where was I? I was talking about belief in, there's this quote from this book by Rita Jaime, however you say that. Belief in and narratives about spirit animals are an example of contemporary vernacular lived religion. The social or belief background of the experiencers and narrators can be quite different, however. More elaborated stories usually come from people with a history of at least some forms of spiritual seeking or practicing. And several authors have stressed that the majority of vernacular belief forms attract particularly women. The vernacular belief forms attract particularly women. But there were also a number of male narrators who shared their stories about beliefs related to spirit animals. So, number 9, in other results from the aforementioned Estonian study, narrators or narrators usually presented only a limited diversity of spirit animals, including wolves, deers, bears, horses, eagles. And additionally, although Estonian narrators often alluded to Native American kinship in their animal spirit beliefs, these beliefs were otherwise usually free of any other context. And the final thing, a 10th thing here, even though, no, I said there were 10, not 9. Starting in the past decade, Jaime noted a liquidity of belief structures among narrators. It became less rigid, less stone hard, more liquid and more flowing, with those ascribed to the spirit animals harboring little historical or cultural knowledge of the phenomenon, and mixing elements from various cultures, stereotyping of animal roles. In other words, their promotion of animal spirits could represent a form of appropriation. So based on all the things out there, those are the 10 observations regarding spirit animals. And so now we've got about 12 minutes left of this program. So I want to take a little bit of time about how to find your own spirit animal. Do you have one? Do you have a belief system that supports this? Or is this like with some, I know, evangelical faiths and so on? It's all demons, it's demonology. Anything to do with anything spirit that is not the Holy Spirit or God or Jesus. Same in Judaism, there are certain things. But there are belief systems where all these things mesh, where they mold together and they come together and they can be supported if you don't have, pardon me for saying it, a religious stick up your ass. So there, and that's that gross, crass vernacular I just used might show that maybe I'm more flippant about it, and I'm not. I have a very firm belief in the afterlife. I have a very firm belief in the spirit world. I have a very solid belief in some of these metaphysical things that we talk about on this show. That's why I talk about them, and I want to learn more about them. I have a belief in spirit animals, although even though one was identified for me 20 years ago, I still, the jury's out because I haven't really appropriated that. I'll believe it. I'll accept it. I'll accept that it's a real thing. But at the same time, it's not something I've appropriated. So I've never really gone out and looked for my spirit animal. I have a little piece. I'm wondering if it's sitting up here or if it's still packed away. It's got a fan of feathers on it that was given to me 20 years ago by this woman who said I had this spirit animal. I'm looking to see if I have it out or if it's still packed away. I don't see it on my shelf over there, so I might not have taken it out. But it had some bone buttons on it and leather lacings around a handle with a fan of feathers and eagle feathers coming off of it. Which technically and legally you're not supposed to own eagle feathers unless you're an indigenous person. But I've got that somewhere. Ruben looked at it and he said, "That's okay. You can have that." Thank you, Ruben, again. And so he'd be somebody that's good to talk to about the spirit animal issue. But how do you find your spirit animal? How do you know you have one? How would you even begin to look for one? So by Elena Harris, spiritanimalinfo.info, that's her website, editor, everyone has a spirit animal. And she kind of lended some tips on how to find, connect, and develop a meaningful relationship with your spirit or power animal. Now, that sounds, to some of you, that might sound a little silly off the top. How do I have a relationship with my spirit animal, which I don't really even know is there or not? And so this is a thing of faith where you've got to set some things aside and you give it a shot. And you give it a try and you say, look, okay, I'm going to go for this. I'm going to try to understand this. I'm going to see what's there. I'm going to try to appropriate some of this. I was going to bring up a story, but I'm going to skip it. So that was my pause there. I'm going to skip that to get the information out in the about 8 minutes we have left here. So here's how tips on how to find it, whether it's through daydreaming, meditation, observation out in nature. Are you a squirrel? You can look at it from your own window. You watch squirrel. Oh, squirrel is my spirit animal. I can identify. Or a mole or whatever it might be. But observation. There are many ways to find out what your spirit animal is. And keep in mind that you're likely to develop relationships with several power animals that are going to guide you during various phases of your life. What do I mean by relationships? This is on a spiritual level. Rule number 1, let your spirit animal choose you. And there's many ways to find out which spirit animal is linked to you. So when starting on the path of discovery, it's important to remember that a spirit animal cannot be chosen. It chooses you. Does that mean it has cognitive awareness in its spiritual form? We think of animals as not being cognitive. They don't have reason and things like that, but they do have spirits. What do they have when they exist in the spirit realm? Is it going to be different? So if they choose you, why are they choosing you? Did your cat choose you? Did your dog choose you? I know my old cat, Oscar. He chose me. Out of a room full of cats at the animal shelter, 30 cats in there, and people are looking at animals. Oscar came over and curled up around my feet and laid on his back and reached his paws out, and he still does that to me, like 10 years later. So there's many ways to find a spirit animal. When you start on the path of discovery, you have to remember that it chooses you. And in most cases, spirit animals will be most present when you journey out of your conventional state of mind, such as during meditations, daydreams, night dreams, or other altered states of consciousness. I wouldn't say drunkenness, but maybe certain kinds of substances, ayahuasca type of thing. They can also come to you in their physical, and that, by the way, is a more extreme way to detach. They can also come to you in their physical form. You're going to notice them because of unusual behavior or multiple encounters in a short time span. And so the way to look for your spirit animal, finding your spirit animal, can lead you to try different approaches. And here's some of the most common ways to get started. Okay, you ready for this? Here's some things you can do to start looking to see if you've got a spirit animal. 1, look in nature and observe around you. Pay attention to animals and their behavior. 2, be attentive when an animal appears in your life in a way that's noticeable. When it has an unusual behavior, it might be a spirit animal trying to grab your attention. How about that? We say humans do that. Human spirits do that. Just trying to get your attention. Number 3, watch for repetitive encounters with the animal, either its physical or symbolic form as an object or an image. Let's say, I'm going to pull this out of the air. Let's say you keep running across like wolf totems or something. I saw a wolf on a coffee cup. Walking down the street, I find a wolf pendant or a button of the Somerset Wolves or something, a team. You see wolves continually reappearing, eagles, bears. I'm thinking of just common animals that are coming off the top of my head. Maybe these are things that are telling you something, the way the spirit world works. Read books on animals and reflect on an animal that stands out for you. Meditate, either with the general intention of finding a spirit animal or on a specific animal that you found earlier. It's kind of like when we talked about the fae and the fairy folk, the elementals. If you want to attract them, you meditate on them. You go out to the woods, you sit, you sing, you be quiet, and so on. Be attentive to dreams that feature animals. Do you have any dreams that have animals in them? Might have something to do with it. Process of journeying. For instance, visualization accompanied with sound, shamanic drumming, things like that. So what about this finding spirit animals in your dreams? And we can go, there's a lot of stuff here. We've only got a few minutes left now on the radio station, and we gotta leave you all. I gotta keep my eye on the clock because I've run over a couple of times. Animals in your dreams are common manifestations of unconscious imagery and guidance. If the animal in your dream is a power or a spirit animal that has guided you in the past, pay particular attention to the message your dream delivers. Animals in dreams, whether they're spirit animals or not typically present, represent 1, feelings that you've not been fully acknowledged yet by the dreamer. 2, an aspect of the personality or feelings considered as wild or hard to control. 3, the basic instinctual drive or emotions of that animal. 4, an event or a person's influence in the dreamer's life. And 5, intuitive guidance using the shape of an animal as a spirit guide. These are things to pay attention to in your dream. How do you find a spirit animal? Through meditation. This is the last thing we'll be able to talk about tonight before we have to cut off on the radio. But how do you find that? Through meditation. Meditation provides an effective way to connecting to your spirit animal. We use the term meditation in a loose way to designate, it means relaxing, using active imagination to visualize and journey inward. But set your intention for this inner journey to connect with one or several animals. Now, I'm talking about this stuff as if it's important. If it's important to you to find out, these are the things that you can do. Using meditation allows you to drop into a different state of mind or altered states where you're more receptive to the energy and intuitive wisdom of spirit animals. Then what do you do once you've found your spirit animal? You learn about it. You list the qualities or attributes of the animal itself. And how does the animal trait relate to you? How does the animal, and so on and so on and so on. And we gotta come to an end for the radio audience. I hate to say that, radio audience, but you know what? We got to get out of here. We got about 10 seconds left, and we have to leave you. So I want to thank you all for listening. Come on over to my Patreon, patreon.com/Scotty Roberts. Everybody else, stick around for the Captain's Cabin. Live long and prosper.
Join us every weeknight at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, 10 p.m. Eastern. The Intrepid radio program, a Scotty Roberts Productions broadcast.
Hey folks, this is Scotty Roberts, and this is the Intrepid radio broadcast. I've been broadcasting for about 20 years now, covering such topics as science, politics, the paranormal, weird science, weird world history, archaeology, and the paranormal. Everything from ghosts to cryptids to creepy things that go bump in the night. So every week I bring you 3 new episodes. Come and join my channel and also be a patron to this site. So see the details below, and we'll see you here. Well, welcome to the Captain's Cabin, everybody. This is the after show for the Intrepid radio program. And now that we've moved over to Patreon, it's a little tougher to do the Captain's Cabin and have an audience and have guests come in. People don't seem to want to come on over to the Patreon to do that. And so we just keep them short and sweet now. But I was just thinking, it was going through my head and it popped in front of my face this morning. I was looking for some pictures of Uncle Dave to do for a graphic that I eventually put up on my Facebook page today. And I was going through old, there's a program built into my Mac, my Apple computer here. And I've had Apple computers for 30 years. And I have a program that you can take pictures or videos right from the webcam here, and it's internal to the computer. And iPhoto, and is that what it's called? No, it's called a photo booth. And so I have pictures. I have thousands of pictures. If I start scrolling through, I find old files, and I can scroll through those files and find pictures that Rainey and I were taking when we were still dating. That my daughters, Abby and Bryn, are now 30, my twin daughters, my older ones, when they were 13. I mean, I've got pictures on that date all the way back. And people would sit, Rainey and her sister, Rainey and me, my daughters, and Uncle Dave. When he'd come over, they'd all sit in front of this computer and they'd take shot after shot after shot after shot to try to get the right shot, just posing and making faces and so on. And I came across a whole slew of pictures of Uncle Dave. And they're not high resolution. I wish they were built into the computer. They should be. It should have had that option. But, and maybe it doesn't. I just don't know about it. It's the camera that's built in. And, but I found a bunch of old pictures of Uncle Dave. And as I was looking for them, I found a picture that I put up on my Facebook this morning. And it was a picture taken in 2000. From the background, it was taken in 2005, maybe early 2006. And I'm sitting and I'm looking down at the computer and smiling, and Rainey's behind me. She's got her arms up. She's fixing the bun in her hair, and she's looking at me and smiling. She's sitting kind of behind me. And I looked at that and I go, look at the look in her eyes. Don't you sometimes, when you've been married together for a long time, or you get used to the other person, you forget how wonderful it was to have that person just look at you, and the love in their eyes, and the way they look at you, and that and many other little things. And I don't think Rainey and I have lost touch with that at all. We still think about those things, but at the same time, you look at that and you go, wow, that is so, it just makes your heart explode a little bit when you think about those things. And this morning I saw that picture, and if you're not on my Facebook, here, I'll throw it up for those of you that are looking here. Let's see if I can find it here, and I'll bring it in. Let's see, blah 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 blah. I don't know why it isn't right there in my files that I've worked on today. Oh well. Anyway, it's called. I named the file. I see. I have to go in now and save it. As a different kind of a file. Hang on. I don't know why it's taken so much time to try to find it. It's in here. It's in my pictures. Right there. There it is. I'm going to resave this as a PDF, because those of you who are still watching, I want you to see this picture and see what I'm talking about. And let's see. I got to save it as a PDF. Boom. And I don't need to do that. I don't need to do that. I just need to save it. Okay. So now let's load it up here in the show, because I want you to see this. And because it's a beautiful picture. Here we go. I'm locating it once again now so I can upload it. And it's going to be here. And it's going to be here. And it's going to be down here, right there. Okay, it's loading right now. Now, this is a picture when I would have been 44 years old. And Rainey would have been 24, maybe 25 by the time this picture was taken. Here it is. There she is. Now, I looked at that. When I saw that this morning, I went, look at the look in those eyes, the look on that face. And I love that when my wife looks that way. Tonight, before the show, Rainey wasn't feeling good. She's laying watching TV in the bedroom. And she's got her knees kind of pulled up to the side and laying on her side kind of. And I just crawled in at the end of the bed and I laid my head on her hip. and my head nestled into her waist a little bit on the side, and she put her hand on my head, and it was so nice. Just those little things, those little gestures that are always the alive and the fire and things like that. But I put this up, and when I put it up on my Facebook, this picture, I immediately thought of him. Those of you who are older like me, you'll remember this. Maybe this doesn't mean anything to anybody else, or nobody gets this. But do you remember Nat King Cole? L is for the way you look at me. O is for the only one I see. V is very, very extraordinary. E is even more than anyone that you adore. For love is all that I can give to you. Love is more than just a game for two. Two in love can make it. Take my heart and please don't break it. Love was made for me and you. That's what I thought of, was that song. So I put that song up with this picture. And that's what it made me think of. That's what it reminds me, because I looked at it, I go, L is for the way you look at me. I love that. And I'm a guy, and I can express that all I want. Guys don't, well, yeah. I'm a guy, and I think I'm a manly guy. And I still like that kind of thinking. And so I just want to share that with you. And so I hope you enjoyed that little impromptu. I started the song a little low. I'm a tenor. I should have gone, L is for the way you look at me. O is for the only one I see. V is very, very extraordinary. E is even more than anyone that you adore. So love is all that I can give to you. Love is not only just a game for two. Two in love can make it. Here's my heart and please don't break it. Love was made for me and you. There you go. Boom, boomity boom, boomity bomb bomb. I got to sing tonight. How about that? So I hope you enjoyed that. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the show this week or tonight. I hope you enjoyed the shows this week. If you like this show and you like it on Patreon, please spread the word that we're here. And hopefully we'll rebuild this audience as we're doing as if from scratch. And getting a new audience in here. And hopefully still get our old audience members in here. So thanks for being here. Thanks for being part of my life. Thanks for being part of this show. And I love y'all. And we'll see you next time. Sunday morning. Live long and prosper.